Ever since I picked up my first Nancy Drew book as a young girl, I have always loved a good mystery, and I particularly love a good golden age crime mystery. And of course, there is nobody who outwrites a mystery like the queen herself, Agatha Christie. Let us find out how many of her books I have left to read and what my plan for reading them this year is. Hello book friends, I'm Jen and welcome to my reading life and welcome to a little spotlight on Agatha Christie today. As you know, I love mysteries, always have, always will, and Agatha Christie is one of my very favorite mystery writers, and I have read a lot of her books. Agatha Christie was incredibly prolific. She wrote novels, short stories, nonfiction, plays. I think she may have even written some poetry. She pretty much did it all. I have, over the years, been working my way through her books, really in no particular order. I have often just grabbed whatever the library had on hand, or if somebody gifted me an Agatha Christie book, I would read it, or if I found one at the used bookstore that I hadn't read, I would pick it up. And while I don't think you need to read her books in any particular order, I know some people like to read the Poirot books in order or the Miss Marple books in order, or you could read her books in chronological order. That's another way to do it. Or you could just do it like me and grab whatever one suits your fancy at any moment in time. But I thought I would try to be a little bit methodical this year about how I am going to read some of her books. For the past 5 or 6 years on Instagram, I have participated in the Read Christie challenge that the official Agatha Christie Instagram account puts out every year. And they create a challenge and they give some sort of prompt every month. And sometimes there's a theme to the year, sometimes there's not. And this year, while I am reading a Christie book every month, I'm not necessarily participating in what the prompts for this year are going to be. However, if you would like to see what the prompts are, I will have a link to the Read Christie 2025 information down in the description box below so that you can see what this year's challenge is. My goal this year is to read the remaining Agatha Christie mystery novels that I have on my shelf. I have 11 novels left on my shelf to read, and I have 2 short story collections. And I am for sure going to read all of the novels and then hopefully get to the short story collections as well. That is just what I have on my own TBR. In terms of the total number of Agatha Christie books I have left to read, I excluded plays, nonfiction, and the book she wrote as Mary Westmacott, which was her pseudonym, just her mystery novels and short story collections, I believe. And it's sometimes a bit challenging because there were short story collections that, include some of the same stories and they were titled differently either in the UK or here in the US. There are also the seasonal collections of her short stories, which have been reissued recently. And so there's a lot of overlap in the short stories. So it's challenging to just completely grasp exactly how many books of hers I have left to read, but I believe it is 29. So of I forget how many books she wrote. I'll have to look that up and I will put it here on the screen if I can figure out exactly how many books Agatha Christie actually wrote. So 29 is not a bad number actually, and I could finish that in less than 3 years and I could have read everything Agatha Christie wrote in terms of all of her mysteries. And that feels like, whew, that is very satisfying. But as I mentioned, this year I am focusing on the books that are on my personal unread shelf. I took them right from up there where that big empty space is. And I thought I'd share them all with you today. I did decide to read the books that I own in publication order, at least the novels. So I'm going to go from the earliest publication date to the latest publication date. But let us just get into the books and I'll share with you all the titles I am planning to get to this year. The first book that I'm going to read off my shelf is the book I'm planning to read for January. If you watched my January TBR, I actually made a mistake. The book I had selected for January is one of the short story collections. I didn't realize it was a short story collection. I thought it was a novel. It is not. So I am saving that one for after I finish the novels. So I reordered things, and I am going to be starting with There Is a Tide, which is an Hercule Poirot mystery. This was first published in 1948, and I believe it is also issued under the title Taken at the Flood. So if you have that book or have read it, this is the same mystery. It sounds like Poirot is going to head to an English village where a series of bizarre events has happened, and we are going to go along with him while he figures out what's going on. Do love a good Poirot. Then for February, I am going to be reading Mrs. McGinty's Dead, and this was published in 1952. This is another Poirot mystery, and Mrs. McGinty died from a brutal blow to the back of her head, and suspicion falls on her shifty lodger, James Bentley. But something seems amiss. He doesn't seem like a murderer. And so Hercule Poirot is going to come in and figure out what's going on. Again, another Poirot. Sounds fantastic. Looking forward to it. Then in March, I will be switching and reading a Miss Marple mystery, and that is They Do It With Mirrors. And this was also published in 1952, and in this one, Miss Marple senses danger when she visits a friend living in Stoneygates, a rehabilitation center. And her fears are confirmed when someone shoots at the administrator. Although he is not injured, a mysterious visitor is less fortunate, shot dead simultaneously in another part of the building. Coincidence? Miss Marple is going to find out. I really hope that Miss Marple plays a fairly good role in this book, because my one issue or just wish about Miss Marple books is that she had more of a presence in them. I feel like in a lot of the Miss Marple novels, I just don't get enough of her. And I love her, and I want more of her. So I'm hoping she plays a good part in this one, so we shall see. And then in April, I'm reading another Miss Marple, and that is At Bertram's Hotel. This was published in 1965, so we're skipping ahead a little bit. And I have actually seen the TV adaptation of this particular book, so I remember a little bit about it, though not who done it. And in this, Miss Marple, she goes for a holiday in London. She's staying at Bertram's Hotel, and then there is a violent chain of events, and Miss Marple is on the case. I'm just gonna say, I'm looking forward to all of them, so be prepared for that after I finish talking about each book. And then for May, I'm going to read By the Pricking of My Thumbs, which is a Tommy and Tuppence mystery. This was published in 1968. And so it sounds like Tuppence heads to a nursing home. Somebody has disappeared, and then maybe Tuppence is going to disappear as well. So we will have to see what happens. I don't always love the Tommy and Tuppence mysteries, so we will see what I think of this one. But I'm assuming something wicked this way comes. By the Pricking of My Thumbs. And then in June, I'm going to read a standalone mystery, which is Passenger to Frankfurt. This was published in 1970. I know I said I was going to say that I'm looking forward to every single book after I talk about it, but I'm actually not sure about this one. The reviews of this book are not the greatest, and I have had this book sitting on my TBR shelf for a very long time. I think really because of that reason. Has anyone read this? Did you enjoy it? I mean, I'm going to read it. I just don't know if I'm going to love it. In the airport lounge at Frankfurt, a British diplomat meets a beautiful young woman in fear for her life, and together they enter a sinister world of intrigue and death. I mean, the premise sounds good. Maybe it just wasn't very well executed. I don't know. This was written later in her life, so some of her later books don't have as good of reviews as her earlier books. We'll see what I think when I read it in June. And then in July, I'm going to read Elephants Can Remember. This is a novel featuring both Ariadne Oliver and Hercule Poirot. This was first published in 1972. And in this one, the two follow a twisting trail of guilt and terror to a shocking crime committed long ago and a diabolical plot that now threatens to destroy a beautiful young girl's happiness. Well, that sounds great. So I love this cover too. These sort of vintagey covers are so fun, just so bizarre sometimes. Anyway, I am looking forward to that one. And then in August, I'm going to read Postern of Fate. This is a Tommy and Tuppence mystery, and this was first published in 1973. The year I was born. Good year. And we will see if I like this one or not. I don't really know anything about it. And yeah, so we will see what I think of it in my August wrap-up. And then in September, I am going to read Curtain. This is the final Hercule Poirot mystery. Now, if you're an Agatha Christie fan, you might know what ultimately happens in this. I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to love that aspect of this. She got very, very tired of Poirot, and she had to keep writing him because he was so very popular, but she was done with him, I think. And so we'll see. We will see what I think of this. And I don't know. I know some people who read Agatha Christie and love Hercule Poirot don't ever read this book because I think it's a bit on the upsetting side. But I'm going to read it. It's on my shelf, and I will let you all know what I think when I finish it. These are the 9 mystery novels that I have left on my shelf to read, and we'll see how I like all of them. And then I do have 2 short story collections on my shelf that I have not read yet. And I'm thinking I will read these 2 in October and November. I don't know which order I'll read them in, but I have The Underdog and Other Stories, which I believe are all Hercule Poirot short stories. And then I have the book that I originally picked to read in January, but is apparently a short story collection, and that is The Labors of Hercules, which I also think must be Poirot, or featuring Poirot. It does appear that all the stories are Hercule Poirot. So 2 Poirot short story collections. And then I am thinking in December that just to kind of round out the year of reading Agatha Christie, I will reread The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding, because that is a Christmas story, Poirot story that I haven't read in a very, very long time. And I just thought it'd be fun to do something festive in December to finish out my Agatha Christie reading year. And then I will have to regroup and see what I want to do for 2026. But that is my plan for this year. And actually, it's unusual that I am really only going to reread 1 book by her. In the past few years, I have reread quite a few Agatha Christie books, but it'll be kind of fun to go through and read 11 new books by her that I have not yet read. And that will take me down to 18. 18 books I will have left to read after this year. That's kind of amazing because she was quite the prolific writer. Now, I certainly have other books by her on my shelf. Well, not that many. I have Come Tell Me How They Live, which is a nonfiction of Agatha Christie's, which I may also read this year. We'll see if I get to it. And then I do have a bind up of 3, I think it's 3 Mary Westmacott books in one collection. And so I may get to those next year, but probably not this year. I'd love to know, what are your favorite Agatha Christie books? Are you a Poirot fan? Are you a Miss Marple fan? Do you like any of her standalone novels? Let's talk all things Agatha Christie in the comments. I am going to be doing a roundup of my favorite Agatha Christie books later this year, so that is going to be coming, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, let's talk about all your favorite Agatha Christie books. But if you are here and you don't have anything you'd like to say in the comments, but you'd like to let me know that you are here because comments really do help my channel, why don't you leave a little magnifying glass or the little detective emoji guy, one of those things just to let me know that you were here. That would be wonderful. And if you enjoyed this video, if you could hit that like button and subscribe if you aren't already subscribed, I would love to have you join my bookish community. And I'll be back with another video very soon. Bye.